This is my blueprint on how I got into PA school on my first application cycle. I got into PA school in the first CASPA cycle that I applied in 2022, and I wanted to share with you guys my full stats and everything that I did to basically sell myself into getting into PA school. I'm going to share with you my high school stats and everything I did in high school as well as college to kind of paint a picture of the student that I was and how I kind of boosted myself into college already in high school. This does not mean that you need to be a great high school student or even a good high school student to get into PA school, med school, anything like that. You can quite literally not do good in high school. You can not do good in college too and still get into PA school. So my experience might not be yours. I had a really good setup to get myself into PA school on my first try. That is not going to be everybody's experience, and I understand that. Some people have to go back to school and retake classes in order to get their GPA up, things like that. I did not have to do that. I got very lucky, and yeah, so I just wanted to share this with you. Again, my experience might not be your own, but this is my stats and how I got into PA school. So in high school, I graduated with a 4.04 GPA, and I was also 5th out of 72 students in my school. I came from a really small high school, so I was able to really get involved in a lot of clubs and things. Again, if you come from a huge high school, this probably won't be your experience, but my whole high school had like 300 students in it, so it was really easy to get involved in a lot of different things. So in high school, I was vice president of student council. I was president of my National Honor Society. I was drum major of my marching band. And then I also, on top of that, played 2 sports. So all of this not necessarily helped me get into PA school, but it helped me get into college. It also helped me get into my college's honor society, and it helped me get into my sorority my freshman year. I decided to go to Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. I started in 2019, May of 2019. Not May. I started in August of 2019, and I went there for 3 years all the way through and graduated in 2022. I graduated from Ball State with a GPA of 3.71, which allowed me to graduate with the cum laude status and like get the medal and everything. I graduated with a bachelor's of science in biology with a minor in chemistry. I was able to do college in 3 years all the way through because I entered college already having a semester done by doing dual credit courses in high school. I know not every high school offers dual credit. Some of them just do AP, which to my knowledge, you have to pass the course to get the credit, so that's crazy. The way my high school did it was they just partnered with a local community college, and you took courses through the college at high school. So I graduated high school with like 20 or 22 college credits already. So I had a semester of college done when I entered. Again, that's not going to be everybody's experience. And then in college, in summers, I decided I don't really need a summer break. It might have been nice, disclaimer, my college experience and how hard I worked is not for everybody. It is normal and it is totally okay to take summers off. Normal college students have a summer break. Normal college students go on spring break. I was not like that. I was weirdly motivated to get through school super fast. I knew that undergraduate was not the end for me. I knew that I was going to go on and do more. So I was just really eager to get it done. So over the summers, I took online courses through my local community college, and these classes were like the history classes and the finance classes and the psychology classes, things that I just wanted to get done and didn't really feel like taking a whole spring or fall semester to do it. So I did them in 6 weeks over the summer online through a community college, and it was cheaper than doing it through my university. So then I would take them at my community college and transfer the credits to my university. Now, disclaimer, doing this meant that the grade did not transfer because of I was doing it at a community college and not at my university. And the way they kind of punish you, I think, for doing that is saying, hey, we'll check that checkbox off. You'll be done with that class. But if you get a 4.0 or an A in that class, it's not going to count towards your GPA. So suck it. And I said, okay, whatever. I just want to be done. So if you're trying to cushion your GPA, maybe don't do this. If you're trying to increase your GPA, take it at your university or take it at a community college that your university partners with. Make sure that the grade letter transfers and not just the credits, because that's super important if you're trying to increase your GPA for PA school. Okay, write that one down. But here's the thing, CASPA also calculates their own GPA. So they will present the schools with your college GPA, but then they're also going to calculate your STEM GPA on their own outside of your college transcript, because some people take classes from all over, right? Some people graduate college and then they like, hey, I need to go back and retake that class. CASPA takes that into consideration and they calculate your own GPA. So me doing that, yeah, it might have lowered my college GPA, but then CASPA recalculated it anyways, and I ended up with a higher GPA on my STEM and CASPA like GPA basically. So my CASPA GPA, I believe, was like a 3.8 or a 3.9. I don't have my CASPA application in front of me, but I remember that it was higher than my college GPA. So that helped me so much. Outside of classes, I also did a lot of extracurriculars, shadowing, and volunteer experience on top of working. I don't recommend this. This is what I did to get myself in the best position for applying to PA school, but it was not easy. Doing all of the things that I did wore me out. I was so glad that I got to take a gap year after college because I exhausted myself in college. I got burnout. It was not good for me. Doing all of the things that I did in college in 3 years was not easy. Because I did it in 3 years, there were some semesters I was taking like 17 credit hours, and 3 of those classes were hardcore science classes. Don't do that to yourself, especially if, maybe you struggle with time management or maybe your GPA isn't the greatest. Don't stack your classes like that. I was staying up until 3 a.m. doing my organic chemistry lab notebook and then going to lab at 8 a.m. Don't do that. Anyways, I just wanted to say this because I understand I say all of this and I'm like, yeah, I did it and I got into PA school, but I am so hyper aware that this was hard and that this was at a cost to my physical health and my mental health. I struggled in college because of this. I had a good time. Don't get me wrong. I lived it up on top of this. Maybe I'm just built different, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm aware that this is a lot. Okay, anyways. So in college, my freshman year, I joined the Chi Omega sorority. And then in my senior year, I became the director of DEI. So happy I did this. I know that DEI is a bit of a sensitive topic right now with the current administration and schools getting rid of DEI initiatives and just everything. So I know that this might not look as great now, but in 2022, being director of DEI when it like first started was so good for not only my resume and to put on my CASPA application, it was so good to write about in my personal statement. And then also, so there's one thing, I put it in, another thing, and then I went up and I talked about it during my interviews. So people were like, wow, this girl not only has it on her resume, she did it, but she wrote about it in her essays, and then she talked about it in her interviews. And I not only just talked about it in the general sense, but I connected it to medicine. I talked about the disparities in healthcare that exist and how, I want to work to change that, basically. That's awesome. Anything that you can do to show you're passionate about it, and that you, not only do I have a passion for it, but I did it, right? Like I was in that leadership role. I helped establish DEI as a chair in my sorority. So anyways, just to say, this was really good leadership experience to talk about in interviews, really great to write about. They loved hearing about it, I think. So yeah, that one, chef's kiss on my leadership experience there. Next, I was in Order of Omega, which is a Greek honor society reserved for like the top 10% on your campus. And also in my senior year, I became vice president of that club. So that was another thing to talk about and to say, hey, I have leadership experience. It was an honor society, yada, yada, yada. Next, I was in my pre-health professions club on my campus, and also in my senior year, I was secretary of that club. So I held 3 exec, positions my senior year, 3 pretty good leadership positions my senior year. Not recommended. Maybe space this out a little bit. Having 3 leadership positions at once, plus taking classes, and I was also working a job. I don't recommend it. It was so bad for me. But I did it. So anyways, and if you're not into leadership and you're like, oh, I kind of just want to be in the clubs, just still be a part of like some kind of planning committee, do the volunteer work. You don't necessarily have to be in leadership in the clubs that you're in, but just get involved. And being in your school's pre-health professions club looks really good because it shows your schools that you're applying to that you are interested in medicine all throughout your college experience. It wasn't just something you jumped into, you were involved from the start. And not only is it good to get involved in these clubs because it looks good, but you also need letters of recommendation for PA school. You need good, solid letters of rec. So the advisor for my pre-health professions club was willing to write me a letter of recommendation. And I got to kind of have a relationship with her because I was in leadership. So I was having meetings with her every semester regarding what the club was going to do that semester. So that is a reason why being in these clubs and being in leadership is so helpful. The next thing that I did was undergraduate research. Now, this is not really required for PA school. Does it look good? Yeah. The reason I did undergraduate research was because I was still in between pre-med and pre-PA. And I knew that for the pre-med track, research is basically required to go to med school. It's not, but like they really like it. And so I didn't know which way I was going to go. So I was like, screw it. I had a professor that I really loved. He liked me. He asked me and like literally asked me if I would be a part of his research lab. I said yes. Like, I'm not going to say no to that. That's a crazy opportunity. Most of the time you got to beg professors, hey, can I please be a part of your research? And, hopefully you get lucky with a professor that you like. But I actually got asked. So that was awesome. I loved this professor. I took 2 or 3 of his classes. And then because of this, he wrote me a letter of recommendation. Granted, I only did research with him for 1 semester. you know, do it longer if you have a passion for it. But I just discovered that I really hated research. And I kind of expressed this to him. I think he knew that it wasn't my jam, but that I was going to finish the semester anyways because I like had a contract or whatever. So this research was in neuroscience. We worked with fruit flies or whatever the heck they were. I don't even remember. Anyways, I basically just like mated flies and made their food for a semester. And this was during COVID. So I had nothing better to do. So I did research. And again, he wrote a letter of recommendation for me, and he was just a really good mentor for academics in general. So that's another thing that I did. Outside of school, I also shadowed. So I shadowed at the hospital in my college town. I did an interventional radiologist PA. I shadowed her for a few shifts. I shadowed a hospitalist or like internal medicine PA. And then I also shadowed an ER, an emergency medicine PA in Chicago. This was one of my sorority sister's moms, actually. She was like, hey, just like go shadow my mom, basically. And like she'll write you a letter of rec. She's a PA. She works in Chicago, so like it's busy, yada yada. So I did that, and then she wrote a letter of rec for me. On top of shadowing, I also worked as an emergency department scribe during my senior year. So I worked 16 hours a week, 16 to 20 hours a week during my senior year, on top of all of this other crap I was doing. And one of the PAs in the emergency department there also wrote me a letter of recommendation. So I had 2 PAs. I had a professor, and then I also had an advisor. So those were my 4 PA school letter of recommendations. After I graduated college with my 3.71, I then went into my gap year of PA school. I had not applied for PA school yet. So technically, you can apply for PA school after your junior year or your 3rd year of college, right? So you can apply your junior year and say, hey, I haven't finished all the classes, but I'm signed up and I will be finishing them. So you can do that. Or you can wait until you finish college and apply after, knowing that you're gonna have a gap year. So I applied after I graduated college, but I graduated college in 3 years. So I physically could not have applied for PA school in my 2nd year because I had too many outstanding classes that I had to take. And honestly, I just didn't have the hours. I didn't have the shadowing experience or the work experience. And I knew I wasn't a good candidate. So I waited until after I graduated college. And so then that meant I was gonna have a gap year. In my gap year, I did a lot of stuff to make money. I worked as a substitute teacher. I worked at the place I worked at in high school, a pumpkin patch. And then I finally got a job as a certified medical assistant through a pretty big hospital system in my hometown area. And I worked as a CMA in a family medicine office until I got into PA school, basically. And I moved to go to PA school. So that also helped me because I was able to tell them, hey, I know I already applied, but upon matriculation to PA school, I will have also gained this many hours of hands-on medical experience that is not on my CASPA application. Also, in my college experience, I volunteered a total of 248 hours. So here are my stats in conclusion. Too long, didn't read. Here's my stats. 3.709 college GPA, bachelor's of biology, minor in chemistry, graduated cum laude. My CASPA GPA ended up being around a 3.8, I believe. Director of DEI for my sorority, vice president, secretary, 1 semester of undergraduate research. I shadowed 3 different PAs for a total of 102 hours. I worked as a scribe in an emergency department. I don't know how many hours. And then I was a CMA after I hit submit on the CASPA, and I volunteered for a total of 248 hours. Now on to my CASPA application, the holy grail, what it all comes down to, this one website that you submit your application on, the thing that terrifies us all. So I hit submit on my CASPA application, I believe in June. This was kind of late. I'm not even gonna lie. The CASPA application opens late April. I graduated in May, and I told myself I wasn't even gonna open the website until I graduated. I wanted to focus on finishing college and having fun in my last few weeks before I started my CASPA application. So I started my application in May and submitted in June or July. But I had my personal statement already started. I had already, wrote my outline. I had, some drafts going. And then from May to June, I just had a few people edit it. So when the CASPA application opens, you should have your personal statement done. April comes around, you're starting your personal statement. No. That, you can do it, but just know you're gonna be submitting way late. And some schools, actually a lot of schools, do rolling applications. So the earlier you apply, they're gonna be like, hey, we wanna interview you. They interview you and accept you, boom, a seat is already gone before you have even pressed submit. So this is my advice. When you decide you're gonna apply to PA school, decide early. Decide, the year before so that you have a long time to start preparing your materials. So I had my letters of recommendation. I had already asked for those. I had my personal statement pretty much written, and I had some basic other essays written that I knew I was gonna have to submit in CASPA. For example, when I applied, I got to do a COVID statement on how, COVID affected my schooling. I also got to do, what else did I do? Hold on. Okay, yeah. Description of childhood residency was an essay that I had to write. I had to write how COVID-19 impacted my pathway to become a PA. I had to write, what else? I think that was it. I think it's description of childhood residency because they want to know if you grew up rural or whatever. And then the COVID essay. So I already had those written. And then I had some other basic essays written because schools ask other questions on top of what's already in CASPA. So for example, Midwestern University up in Downers Grove in Chicago asked, discuss any deficiencies in your application that have not already been addressed for 300 characters or words or whatever. Rosalind Franklin had me write a statement on DEI. That was great. So I already had those written also. And then I hit submit. So my CASPA stats were I applied to 8 schools. I got 3 interviews and I only did 2 of them. I declined one because my job, I just couldn't take off to travel to where the interview was taking place. I was waitlisted from one of the interviews, and the other one, I got accepted to my #1 school, which was Southern Illinois University Physician Assistant Program down in Carbondale, Illinois. That's where I went to school. It was my #1 choice. They focused on rural medicine. It was a bit cheaper than the other Chicago options that I had also applied to. And I'm not even gonna lie, I got rejected so fast from IUPUI, Tennessee, Rosalind Franklin. I got those rejections back quick. And then I was waitlisted from one and didn't hear back ever. So that's how I got into PA school. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. I have helped other pre-PA students with their CASPA applications. I have edited personal statements. You can do it. It's just, it takes hard work and dedication. If you want to be in the medical field, you have to have grit. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be personable. And you have to have a passion for it, because none of this happens if you have no passion. I could not have done any of this if I didn't have a clear why. So if you want to go into medicine, find your why, find what fuels you, and yeah, just let that pull you along, and good luck, guys. It's not easy, but you can do it. And reach out if you have any questions on applying to PA school.